Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second annual Best Picture nominations. Just Go With It ranking. The name is a work in progress.
It's something.
But this is basically where me and Ben are going to go through all 10 movies that were nominated for Best Picture and basically choose our own ranking before the Oscars actually air in March. We've seen a few of them already.
Yeah, so this is kind of a catch-up. We're going to talk about the most recent one we watched, but we're going to go back and hit the other ones we've already seen.
Yes. So in this first video, we're going to discuss, I think, the longest one out of all of them. I can't imagine one being longer than this one.
How long was Wicked?
Wicked was 2 hours and 40-something minutes.
Okay.
We're going to talk about The Brutalist.
Oh my god. Okay, this movie. Okay, so we talked about in the quick review, we both thought it was kind of long.
It's very long. And also, I want to go ahead and drop a bombshell right now.
I know what it is.
You know? Okay.
Yeah.
I said in the quick review that this is based off the true story.
I said the same thing.
Of Laszlo Toth, I believe his name was. And I was so
He's
confident.
not real.
I was so confident that this was a true story movie. Like, I had no doubt in my mind. I even looked up the guy. And apparently there is someone who is famous as Laszlo Toth. But then I went back and looked at the same guy. He's a geographer.
Not the same thing. Yeah, no.
So this movie is not based off a true story.
We were bamboozled.
Yes, thankfully a helpful commenter in the TikTok let us know without feeling too stupid.
To be fair, that quick review is literally us walking out of the theater, getting in the car and recording.
Yes.
No research, no nothing.
Yeah. And I mean, even after doing research, like, I didn't know right away. I was like, still, like, why can't I find anything more about this guy? Like, what's going on?
It had the vibes of like a true story.
It did. It did.
But that brings me to the question of why did it have such unnecessary scenes if it wasn't even a true story? There were some very unnecessary things in that.
I agree. I don't want to go into spoilers just yet.
Oh, yeah, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, some of the stuff in the beginning was like, well, this scene meant nothing. What was the point of it?
Yeah, I did see that the movie is based off of a few different people's lives and a few different people's stories. Not like, it draws inspiration from what was happening then. And so they probably did all of that and made some of those scenes so long to kind of get you into that person's shoes, to try and feel how they felt. But I still don't feel like 3.5 hours were needed to get that point across.
Yeah, there's one scene that comes across and it's like, it's a rant. He's with like a hooker basically, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
And it's not even like the sexual part. It's just like, why is this scene in here? Like, it serves no purpose. Like, his wife doesn't show up until way later. It's like, I don't know. This scene just felt like for no reason to emphasize him being lonely, but that was already touched upon. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. A few things I do want to talk about in the good column of this movie.
Yeah.
The score, the music. Fantastic.
That end music.
The end music, the end song is something on a different level altogether. But just like the main music, like when they're coming on the boat in the first shot, and like the Statue of Liberty is upside down, and just that like score is just hitting, and it's just like this giant orchestra just building to this monumental moment.
I really like the cinematography right at the beginning.
Yes.
Like, first-person perspective, it was like, oh, you're in the deep bowels of this boat. It's dark, and then you come out, and you see the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. And you're looking up at it, so it's like it's upside down and everything.
Yeah.
Because you're, like, under it, looking up at it.
Which, that was really cool. I love that scene.
That was
it seemed
dope.
like all one shot, too. I know it probably had some cuts in there that you couldn't see, but it was so cool how it started, like you said, in, like, the bowels of the ship, and then he's just moving up and up and up, and then finally there. And it's like you can breathe. It was just,
One thing about this movie that I did like is it really followed Laszlo. It followed him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there wasn't like, I mean, there were side characters, but they weren't like major side characters. The movie was him, all him.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, not new, but like, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. No, I thought that was cool too. I will go ahead and just say this movie was not made for us. Like, we are not the target audience for this movie. But I think the fact that neither one of us gave it really a negative review afterwards, and we still can really see and enjoy some of the movie.
This is one of those movies where I get why people like it, but it's not for me.
Yeah, no. And it's not for me either, even though I feel like I do like some deeper movies, and I might like more cinema movies than you do.
Yeah.
Even this one was too much for me. Like, it's like, this is just, it's just dragging
it didn't
on.
even, it didn't even have the fallback of, oh, it's a true story.
Exactly. Which I think, honestly, kind of lowers it just a little bit for me.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, just because it's like, I appreciate the story and I appreciate everything that went into this movie, but just, it's not for me.
See, if it was a true story, you'd be like, okay, there's certain events in this person's real life that are like, okay, we need to show this because it's important. It's somebody's actual life.
Yeah.
But when it's literally a made-up story, it's like, why are we doing all this extra stuff for no reason?
Yeah. I feel like this movie definitely could have been 2.5. You could have cut easily an hour out of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it might have been a lot better if that was the case. You know, I might have enjoyed it a lot more.
And I have more to say upon that topic of it, you know, but it's getting the spoilers. So as soon as we get the spoilers, I got something I got to talk about.
Okay. I will say one thing I loved: intermission.
Yes!
Fantastic.
More, I think any movie over 3 hours should just automatically have an intermission.
It was great. Like, we got to go get a refill on our drinks. We got to go use the bathroom real quick.
We got to talk about it for like a little hot minute.
Yeah,
you know?
just kind of be like, okay, wow, what have we seen so far? And
it gave us a chance to digest.
Yes, yeah. And I feel like it had an intermission at like the most perfect part. Like, no spoilers of like what was going on then, but like the little intermission picture goes along with the story of the movie.
It was like a change in his life.
Yes.
So it change in direction of the movie was the perfect point for the intermission.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm ready to get into spoilers if you are. Should we go ahead and rate it before we do spoilers, or
what? I think I gave it like a 6 or something. What'd I give it?
I think you gave it a 6.
A 6. Honestly, I'd stick with that.
Stick with a 6. I'm actually gonna lower it to a 7.
Okay.
I think the movie is it's good.
You were at 8 before.
I was
you?
an 8. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good. It's just too much, and it doesn't feel like all of it's necessary in the slightest.
It's funny. I feel like they need a director's cut, but in the opposite direction.
Yeah. An audience cut.
Where it's just like, it's more refined. They need like a theatrical cut and not like, you know, an extended cut.
Yeah.
This feels like an extended cut.
Yeah, because it's really long. 3.5 hours in a movie theater is a long time, especially with a movie like this. I know you can say, for example, like, oh, well, Endgame was 3 hours and stuff, or Lord of the Rings is 3.5 hours. That is a much more fantasy, like, you're not in your own world. This is a heavy movie for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of like one movie that it brings to mind is Schindler's List, which, incredible film. Like, that one, 100% I love. I believe it's almost 3 hours long, and it's very heavy. It's all about, like, the Holocaust and, you know, World War II, but it's incredible, and it feels like everything is necessary in that movie. So yeah, 7 out of 10. But spoilers.
Do you want to? I want to hop right into the big one.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's a scene. I'm not going to say the R word because YouTube doesn't like it, but the scene where he gets sexually abused.
Yes.
It just happens literally out of nowhere.
It does. At least for me, and I know I'm going to say this like, oh, maybe on a rewatch I wouldn't, but like I am not going to rewatch this movie. There's no even hints to me that the character of Harrison, Guy Pearce's character, is gay or is, you know, into him in the slightest. He does have this, like, watch your foot.
I know.
He does have this power complex, this god complex.
I think that's what it was.
I think it is too. Like, he wants to feel like he's in control.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, for the story, it totally gripped me, you know, totally like had my mouth on the floor. I was not expecting it.
It was funny because you're at that point of the movie and you're like, okay, I'm starting to lose it. And then that happens and you're like, they just do a curveball.
Yeah, they really did. Like, it came out of nowhere. And then it's to the point of, you know, Laszlo, you know, he's on heroin at this point in his life. He's a drunk too. And it's just, do you think he might have thought, what did that actually happen?
I think so, because he never outright addressed it.
Yeah.
But then because he never, like, he never confronted Harrison.
Yeah.
His wife did. He told his wife about it in like a drug haze stupor.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I think it was one of those things where he wasn't sure, but he didn't want to acknowledge it because if he acknowledged it, it would be real.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It just like they just kind of threw it in there, and it almost felt like, oh, we need some sort of shock value.
Yeah.
It didn't feel real. If that makes sense.
No, yeah. And that's definitely when I was like, man, I can't believe this happened, you know? And then at the end of the movie, I was like, where did Harrison go? Like, we got to look up what happened to that guy.
That was the thing. I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
If this is not a true story, why did they not give us an answer to what happened to Harrison?
Yeah, I know.
And it's not even like, oh, it's a cliffhanger. Because it wasn't even, it wasn't like fun. It was just unsatisfying.
Yeah, it's just like, oh man, this guy who sexually abused the main character now just either got away with it or went and killed himself. And
it's like they were trying to be like, oh, what happened? It's like, oh no, he wasn't the main character. He was just a douchebag. Now, like, I'm mad.
See, I do kind of like the uncertainty because I don't think I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of happy endings in life, you know?
Okay, I get that if it was like the main character. But again, it's just a douchebag. It's just some side douchebag.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind it as much.
It annoyed me.
I will think, or I do think one scene that really got me was whenever his wife was in so much pain and then he gave her heroin. And I don't know if we can say that on YouTube now. Can we say heroin on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean...
Okay. Well, he gives his wife heroin.
We're talking about a movie. Yeah.
And then...
I don't know. Whatever.
And they just have this, like, moment of passion, but then it's cut short by her overdosing.
Mm-hmm.
And him just being at a complete loss because he hadn't had to deal with that before. And then him realizing and her being like, what did you do to me? After she goes to the hospital. Like, what did you give me? Like, how could he live with himself after that? Like, if she would have died, you know?
But I think that put into perspective the sort of pain he was feeling.
Yeah.
And then she realized, oh, crap. Yeah, he's, like, actually going through it.
Yeah.
If he's using this sort of stuff on the regular and it put me under like that,
yeah,
the amount of pain that he's in, it's real. And that's what gave her the motivation to literally... She's in a wheelchair this whole time.
Yeah.
She confronts Harrison standing.
Yeah.
The amount of pain she had to have been in to do that, absurd.
Yeah. And there's so much in this movie that happens that, like, we're not going to mention because, I mean...
You would be here forever.
We would be here forever.
It's a long movie.
There are certain parts that, like we said earlier, I just feel like aren't necessary. Like the whole intro with him getting accused of... Was it his cousin or something?
Yeah, his cousin accused him of hitting on his wife.
Yeah.
Was that... Did I miss something, or was that completely fabricated?
No, it was completely made up. Like,
I was like,
he never hit on his wife.
Yeah, I was like, he actually was like trying not to.
Yeah, like trying not to dance with her or anything like that. And then, I don't know.
I think it was a thing of she was just uncomfortable with him.
Yeah, yeah.
They even said that, like, oh, she's like Christian and he's like Jewish or whatever. Like, made a point of that.
Yeah.
So I think it was she fabricated it because she was uncomfortable with him.
Okay. I really don't think I have anything else to say.
I have one thing I thought was really cool. I don't know if you noticed it. In all the scenes where he's like, you know, with the rich people in their house, and they're like, oh, we're Jewish and all this stuff, we're like you. It would always cut to like imagery of like the jewelry or the fancy food. And they cut back to him and he's like, no, we're not the same.
Yeah.
I'm like a poor architect. I don't live this glitzy life no matter how much you think we're the same. We're not. Look at all this jewelry and stuff that you have. I'm not that.
Yeah.
We're different.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting how they really like showed that in a weird way.
That was cool. One other scene I absolutely loved was whenever they were in kind of like the town hall meeting, kind of towards the middle of the movie, and he was showing them the building for the first time. And then all of a sudden, he like showed the light. He was like, this is what it's going to look like midday. Or this is what it's going to look like at sunset. This is what it looks like at sunrise. And then this is midday. And then that music just kicked in again. And it was like everyone who had doubts, they were just like, nope, yeah, actually, go ahead and build that.
Yeah, the scene where he had like knocked the piece off like the model, I was like, was that real or was that like something the actor did by accident?
Yeah.
That felt like such a real moment.
Yeah.
Or something like he did by accident and they just like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
You know, like the second take or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, just like neat little fun little touch in there. That was interesting.
I will say too, Adrian Brody, the main actor, such a good job. Like he did so good in this role.
Yeah,
like you could really tell the emotional scenes were just,
oh my god, so the emotions. I was like, okay, we talked about this a little bit, but at the end where the son's losing his mind.
The son's losing his mind. Oh yeah, yeah.
See, I was under the impression that he was a little bit too emotional, that he was probably abused too.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the consensus online too.
Yeah.
Like, looking it up.
Obviously,
we have no answer to that.
Because it's not a real movie
or
not a real story.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Little like, did that happen?
Yeah, and I will say it ends with a very catchy song. I know we talked about that earlier, but like it's just so out of place. But yet it had me leaving the theater like, okay. I guess that wasn't so heavy, even though it was very heavy.
That was well, they didn't want you to come out of the theater going,
yeah,
like
they coming out of the theater like, okay,
yeah, they were like, this is heavy enough. Let's give him a break. Give him like a little refresher. But it's like, that was. I was gonna say only other thing I have left is looping back around to the very beginning, the title of the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
I was stupid enough and didn't realize till about halfway through. It's Brutalist architecture.
Yeah, you were telling me that afterwards. I had no idea. See, you were stupid enough halfway through. I was stupid enough the entire movie. I'm like, why is it called The Brutalist?
See, I was just like, okay, at first was he just like brutal circumstances? Like, no, Brutalist architecture. It's play on words.
Yeah, yeah.
But Brutalist architecture.
Yeah.
It was what his style was.
Interesting. But I'm very curious as to see where this ranks. I have a feeling this is gonna win Best Picture. I could see it happening.
Here's the thing. I feel like it's always the artsy fartsy ones that win, and this feels like a very artsy fartsy movie. I would love if it was just like Wicked.
I would love it if it was Wicked too. Wicked's probably gonna be my pick, but I don't know. We still have a long way to go.
We still have other movies to see.
And we still have other ones to talk about. But I'm ready to go ahead and end this one here. I mean, even if it does win, we're just gonna have to go with it.
Yeah.